Please bless me with a child. I do not care in what shape or form. Just give me a child, please. I am waiting for your divine grace.
Adana was born the color of fresh palm fronds at dawn, and her mother died smiling because she knew exactly what her daughter was: a blessing. The village called her a curse. Let me tell you how this story begins, the way all true stories begin, with a woman who loved too much and a man who understood too late. Mama Obioma was the most beautiful woman in Umuala village. Skin like polished mahogany, eyes that held moonlight, voice that made men forget their own names. She married Okonkwo, the second son of the village head, and everyone said it was a perfect match. For 3 years, no child came. The whispers started: barren, cursed. What kind of woman? Mama Obioma ignored them. She went to the ancient Iroko tree at the edge of the forest, the one the elders said housed spirits who were old when the world was young. She brought palm wine, kola nuts, fresh fish. She knelt in the red earth and prayed. "Give me a child," she whispered to the tree, to the spirits, to whatever was listening. "Any child. I don't care what form the blessing takes. Just give me a child to love." The wind moved through the Iroko leaves. Something answered. 9 months later, on a night when the moon was full and red, Mama Obioma went into labor. The birth was hard. 3 days. The midwives whispered that both mother and child would die. On the 3rd day, at dawn, when the first light touched the village, the baby came. And she was green. Not sickly, not diseased, green. Skin the precise color of new palm leaves catching morning sun, emerald, alive, luminous. The midwife screamed. Mama Obioma reached for her daughter and smiled. "Adana," she whispered, her father's daughter. "She is perfect." Then she closed her eyes and died, still smiling, still holding her green baby. The village wanted to throw the child into the forest. "She is an Ogbanje, a spirit child. She killed her mother. She will bring misfortune." Okonkwo, holding his dead wife and his living daughter, said, "Touch her and I will kill you myself." He raised Adana alone for 5 years. 5 years of a father's fierce love and a village's fierce rejection. She was beautiful. Even the people who feared her couldn't deny it. Skin like living jade, eyes like honey catching light, huge, luminous eyes with long, thick lashes, hair that grew in tight coils, dark as midnight against her green skin, a face that would make poets weep, and a body that even as a child promised the kind of curves that made the old women mutter that this was definitely a spirit trying to tempt men. She was also kind, gentle, helped her father, smiled at everyone even when they turned away. It made them hate her more. "The spirits always make their agents beautiful," the village said. "That's how they trap you." When Adana was 5, Okonkwo remarried. He remarried because a man with a child needs a woman in the house, because the elders pressured him, because he was tired of fighting alone. He married Ugochi. Ugochi was a widow with 2 daughters, Chiamaka, 8 years old, and Oluchi, 6 years old. On the wedding day, Ugochi looked at little Adana and her smile didn't reach her eyes. "So, this is the green child everyone speaks of," she said. "This is my daughter," Okonkwo corrected. "You will treat her as such." "Of course," Ugochi said. She lied. For 2 years, while Okonkwo was alive, Ugochi played the role. She was cold but not cruel, distant but not actively harmful. Then, Okonkwo went to the farm one morning and didn't come back. They found him under a fallen tree, dead just like that. Adana was 7 years old, and everything changed. The morning after Okonkwo's burial, Ugochi called Adana to the kitchen. "From today, you will earn your place in this house," she said. Adana, 7 years old and still crying for her father, said, "This is my father's house." "Was your father's house," Ugochi corrected. "Now it is my house. You are here because I allow it. The village wanted you thrown away as a baby. They still do. I can make that happen, or you can be useful." Adana looked at this woman, looked at Chiamaka and Oluchi watching from the doorway with cruel little smiles. She understood. She was alone. "What do you want me to do?" she asked quietly. "Everything," Ugochi said. And so it began. At 7 years old, Adana became a servant in her own father's house. She woke before dawn to fetch water from the stream. She swept the compound. She cooked the meals. She washed the clothes. She worked the farm. She did everything while Chiamaka and Oluchi did nothing. And she was green, which meant that when she went to the stream, the other girls threw stones and called her Ogbanji. When she went to the market, children ran away. When she worked in the farm, people made signs against evil. She learned to move through the village like a ghost, seen, never acknowledged. At night, she would sit outside the compound, looking at the stars, talking to her dead father. "Papa, am I cursed? Is that why Mama died? Is that why everyone hates me?" The stars never answered, but sometimes when the wind was right, she thought she heard her mother's voice from the direction of the Iroko tree. "You are blessed, Adana. They fear you because they don't understand you, but you are blessed." She held on to that. Years passed. Adana grew, and what the village had feared came to pass. The green spirit child became a green woman, and she was devastating. At 17, Adana was the most beautiful thing anyone in Umuala village had ever seen. Skin like polished jade glowing from within, eyes like amber honey, huge, luminous, framed by lashes so long they seemed impossible. A face that would make poets weep, and a body that even as a child promised the kind of curves that made the old women mutter that this was definitely a spirit trying to tempt men. She was also kind, gentle, helped her father, smiled at everyone even when they turned away. It made them hate her more. "The spirits always make their agents beautiful," the village said. "That's how they trap you." She wore old wrappers and torn blouses because Ugochi gave her nothing new. She was magnificent, and she was alone. No man courted her. They were afraid. Her green skin marked her as other, as spirit, as dangerous. She told herself she didn't mind. She lied. At night, washing dishes while Chiamaka and Oluchi, now 20 and 19, properly married with children, visited and laughed inside the house, Adana would look at her green hands and wonder, "Will anyone ever love me? Or am I meant to be alone until I die?" The forest answered that question on a Tuesday. Adana was coming back from the farm, carrying a basket of cassava on her head, when she heard it, singing. A woman's voice, old and beautiful, singing a song Adana had never heard. She followed the sound. It led her off the path, into the forest, to the ancient Iroko tree, the tree where her mother had prayed. An old woman sat at the base of the tree, ancient, skin like dark leather, eyes white with age or magic or both, wearing wrappers that seemed to be made of leaves and shadow. She looked at Adana and smiled. "Ah," she said, "the green daughter, I've been waiting for you." Adana should have run. She didn't. She put down her basket and sat. "Who are you?" she asked. "I am the one your mother met, the one who answered your prayer." Adana went very still. "You made me green. You made you protected," the woman corrected. "Your mother asked for a child, any form. I gave her a daughter who would survive what was coming. My mother died." "Your mother was already dying," the woman said gently. "The sickness was in her. She knew. That's why she prayed. She wanted to leave behind life before she left this world. I gave you you. Green, yes. Strange, yes, but alive and strong. Strong enough to survive your stepmother. Strong enough to survive this village. Strong enough to survive what comes next. What comes next? Adana asked. The old woman smiled. A prince, she said. A choice. A chance to leave this village and become what you are always meant to be. I'm a servant, Adana bitterly said. Green and cursed. No prince wants that. This one will. But first you must want yourself. She stood. She was leaving. Wait, Adana called. What does that mean? It means, the old woman said, that when the time comes, you must be seen. Not hidden, not ashamed. Seen in all your green glory. That is when the magic happens. She walked into the trees and vanished like smoke. Adana sat there for a long time. Then she picked up her cassava basket and went home. 3 days later, the message came from the palace. The crown prince of the region was looking for a wife. He would visit every village in the territory. There would be a festival, a dance, a choosing ceremony. Every unmarried girl was invited. The village of Umuala lost their collective minds.
Please bless me with a child. I do not care in what shape or form, just give me a child, please.
The announcement came from the palace messenger, a man in royal blue wrapper riding a fine horse, and he stood in the center of Umaola village square and declared, "The crown prince Chibuzo seeks a wife. In 7 days there will be a festival at the palace. Every unmarried woman of age is invited to attend. The prince will choose his bride from among those who come." The village erupted. Every family with an unmarried daughter suddenly became very busy. Seamstresses were bombarded. The market ran out of good fabric. Mothers drilled their daughters on how to walk, talk, dance, smile. Ugochi had 2 unmarried daughters. Well, one unmarried, Chamaka was married. But Oluchi was 19 and still unmarried, which was becoming a problem that Ugochi blamed on other people's jealousy and definitely not on Oluchi's mean spirit and unfortunate face. "This is perfect," Ugochi said, clutching Oluchi's hands. "The prince, if you marry the prince, we will move to the palace. We will be royalty." Oluchi, who had her mother's cunning but not her intelligence, said, "But Mama, all the girls will be there. How will the prince choose me?" "You will be the most beautiful," Ugochi declared. She wasn't, but hope is a powerful delusion. They went to the seamstress. They ordered the finest wrapper and blouse, purple and gold, expensive, imported. They bought beads. They planned Oluchi's hair, a wig, expensive, long. They spent everything. While this happened, Adana worked. She said nothing about the festival. She knew better. She was not invited. She would not be allowed. She was the green servant. She would stay home while everyone else went to dance. She told herself she didn't care. She lied so well, even she almost believed it. 5 days before the festival, while Ugochi and Oluchi were at the seamstress for the 3rd fitting, Adana went to fetch water. At the stream, the old woman from the Iroko tree was waiting. "You're not preparing for the festival," the woman observed. "I'm not invited," Adana said. "Everyone is invited. Everyone human is invited. And you think you're not human?" Adana looked at her green hands. "The village doesn't think so. What do you think?" Adana was quiet for a long moment. "I think," she said slowly, "that I am tired of being invisible. I think I want to go to the festival. I think I want to dance. I think I want to be seen, just once, as something other than a curse." The old woman smiled. "Then you shall go," she said. "How? I have no dress, no money. Ugochi would kill me if I tried. Come to the Iroko tree. On the night of the festival, I will give you what you need." "Why?" Adana asked. "Why are you helping me?" "Because your mother asked me for a blessing, and blessings must be seen to be believed. You are the blessing, Adana, but only if you choose to be." She disappeared into the water like she was never there. Adana stood there, heart pounding. I'm going to the festival, she thought. I'm actually going. The night of the festival came. Ugochi and Oluchi left early, dressed in their expensive purple and gold, Oluchi's rented wig sitting on her head like a dead animal. Both of them so excited they barely looked at Adana as they swept out. Clean the compound while we're gone, Ugochi threw over her shoulder. We may bring guests back to celebrate when the prince chooses Oluchi. The confidence was staggering. They left. Adana waited until their voices faded. Then she ran. She ran through the village, through the farms, into the forest, to the Iroko tree. The old woman was there, and she wasn't alone. There were others, women, old, young, in between, all dressed in wrappers made of things that shouldn't be fabric, leaves, water, shadow, moonlight, all watching Adana with knowing smiles. The green daughter comes, one of them said. Late bloomer, but she's here. The old woman stepped forward. Adana, daughter of Obioma, you came. You said to come. I said you could come. You chose to come. That's different. That's important. She gestured to the others. These are my sisters. We are the ones who heard your mother's prayer. We gave you your color, your protection, your strength. Tonight, we give you one more thing. What? Beauty, the old woman said. Not that you need more, you're already devastating, but beauty that cannot be denied, cannot be hidden, cannot be ignored. Beauty that will make them see you, really see you. She touched Adana's wrapper, the old, torn, faded thing she wore every day. It transformed. The fabric rippled like water, like light, like something alive. When it settled, Adana was wearing a wrapper and blouse made of moonlight, actual captured moonlight, silver and glowing, fitting her curves like it was painted on, moving with her like water. Her hair, usually in simple braids, was now an elaborate work of art, braided and twisted and decorated with tiny silver beads that caught light and threw it back. Her skin, already luminous green, now glowed, literally glowed like she had swallowed the moon and it was shining through her. Her face, her already perfect face, was somehow more, her eyes larger, brighter, impossible, her lips fuller, her cheekbones sharper. She looked like a goddess. The women stepped back to admire their work. Oh, one of them breathed. Oh, the prince doesn't stand a chance. She'll destroy him, another agreed happily. Wait, Adana said, looking at herself in the reflection of the stream. This is too much. People will know. They'll know this is magic. They'll see you, the old woman interrupted. That's the point. You cannot spend your whole life hiding, child. Tonight you shine. Let them see what they've been calling a curse. Let them see what we made. Let them see the blessing. She touched Adana's shoulder. You have until midnight. When the clock strikes 12, the magic fades. You return to yourself. So make the time count. Clock? We don't have clocks in the village. The palace does. You'll hear it. When you hear the bell, run. Don't wait, don't explain. Run. The magic protects you while you wear it. But when it fades, you are just you again. Green and beautiful, yes, but vulnerable. So when midnight comes, run home. Understand? Good, the old woman smiled. Now, go. Dance. Be seen. Choose yourself. The forest opened a path. Adana walked it, and behind her, the women sang. At the palace, the festival was in full swing. The great courtyard had been transformed, torches everywhere, musicians playing, long tables with food and palm wine, and girls, so many girls, every unmarried woman from every village, all dressed in their finest, all hoping. The Crown Prince Chibuzo sat on a raised platform watching. He was handsome, yes, 25 years old, tall, well-built, with the kind of face that mothers pointed him out to daughters as an example of what to look for. He wore royal blue and gold. He looked bored. This was the problem. He'd been doing this for 3 weeks. 3 weeks of traveling to villages, attending festivals, watching girls dance, listening to girls sing, receiving girls' families trying to sell their daughters like yams at market. He was exhausted, and he hadn't felt even a flicker of interest. His best friend Emeka said, standing beside him, "You could at least pretend to be interested." "Why?" Chibuzo asked. "Because your father, the Igwe, wants you married. Because you're the crown prince. Because these girls have been preparing for weeks. I didn't ask them to. You're impossible." The dancing started. Groups of girls performing traditional dances, trying to catch the prince's eye. Some were good, some were not. All were desperate. Chibuzo sat with the enthusiasm of a man watching paint dry. Then she walked in, and the entire courtyard went silent. Adana stood at the entrance to the palace courtyard, and she glowed. Literally, her moonlight wrapper, her luminous green skin, her impossible beauty, she looked like something that stepped out of a dream, out of a legend, out of the forest itself. Every head turned, every mouth opened, the music stopped. One of the musicians dropped his drum. Someone gasped, Is she green? She's glowing. Who is that?" Chibuzo sat up straight for the first time all night. "Who," he said quietly, "is that?" Emeka stared. "I don't know, but dear God." Ugochi, standing in the crowd with Oluchi, saw Adana and her face went white. "No," she whispered. "No, that can't be." "Mama," she hissed, "that's Adana. That's the green girl, your stepdaughter. What is she doing here?" "I don't know," Ugochi said. Her voice was shaking because she understood what she was seeing. The cursed green servant had just walked into the palace looking like a goddess, and every eye in the courtyard, including the prince's, was on her. Part 3. The Crown Prince Chibuzo stood up from his throne for the first time all night and said, "Dance with me." It wasn't a question, it wasn't a request. It was the command of a man who had just seen something he needed like air. The musicians, frozen in shock at the green glowing woman, scrambled back to their instruments. The drums started, slow at first, the traditional wedding dance rhythm, deep, hypnotic. Adana looked at the prince, at this handsome man in royal blue and gold, staring at her like she'd hung moon in the sky herself. She should have been afraid. She wasn't. She took his offered hand. The moment their hands touched, something happened. The torches around the courtyard flared brighter. The air hummed. Every person watching felt it, like lightning about to strike, like rain about to fall, like the moment before the world changes. The prince felt it most. His hand touched her green skin, and it was warm, living, real, not spirit, not curse, human, but something more than human, something divine. He led her to the center of the courtyard. Everyone else backed away. The drums got louder, and they danced. Adana moved like water, like wind, like something that had learned to dance from watching trees sway and rivers flow. Her hips rolled with the drum rhythm. Her feet moved in patterns passed down from her grandmother's grandmother. Her arms told stories. Her eyes never left the prince's face. She was mesmerizing. Chibuzo had been trained to dance since childhood. He was good, but next to her, he was just a man trying to keep up with a goddess. He didn't care. He couldn't look away. Every time she spun, her wrapper caught the moonlight and threw it back. Every time she moved, her curves moved with her in ways that made every man in the courtyard forget he had a brain. Every time she smiled, she destroyed kingdoms. The dance got faster. The drums got louder. They moved together now, bodies in sync. The prince's hands on her waist, green and warm and real. Her hands on his shoulders, spinning, dipping, rising. The courtyard spinning around them. People were crying watching this. Not sad crying, awe crying. The crying of witnessing something secret. Because this wasn't just a dance. This was a claiming. Every movement said, "You are mine." Every turn said, "I see you." Every beat said, "This is fate." When the dance ended, they stood in the center of the courtyard, breathing hard, still holding each other, and the entire palace was silent. Then someone started clapping. Then everyone was clapping. Then they were cheering. The crown prince, still holding Adana's waist, still looking at her face, said quietly, I've been looking for you my whole life. Adana, breathless, glowing, said, You found me. I'm never letting you go. That sounds like a threat, she said. It's a promise, he corrected. Behind them, Ugochi was having a crisis. This can't be happening, she whispered to Chamaka, who had arrived late. The prince can't choose her. She's green. She's a servant. She's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, Chamaka said flatly. Mama, we've lost. No! Ugochi grabbed Oluchi's arm. Go, dance. Remind him you're here. Mama, he's still holding her. I said dance. Oluchi, desperate, ran forward and tried to insert herself between the prince and Adana. Your Highness, she said loudly, might I have the next dance? The prince looked at her like you look at something you found on the bottom of your shoe. No, he said simply and turned back to Adana. Oluchi stood there, dismissed, in front of the entire village, her expensive purple and gold wrapper suddenly looking cheap next to Adana's moonlight. She fled crying. The prince didn't notice. Walk with me, he said to Adana. She should have said no. She should have remembered the old woman's warning. She should have checked the time. She said yes. They walked through the palace gardens, away from the crowd, into the quiet. The moon was full overhead, the night flowers were blooming, and for the first time in her 17 years, Adana was with someone who looked at her green skin and saw beauty. Tell me about yourself, Shibuzo said. Where to even start? I'm from Omala village, she said carefully. I know. We were there 3 days ago. I didn't see you. Because I was hidden, she thought. Because I'm the green servant they keep in the back. I'm shy, she lied. He laughed. The woman who just danced like that is shy? She smiled, despite herself. They walked deeper into the gardens. Your skin, he said, then stopped. I'm sorry, is it rude to mention? It's green, she said. You'd be blind not to mention it. It's beautiful, he corrected. Like jade, like new leaves, like something alive. No one had ever called her skin beautiful before. Her eyes filled with tears. He saw them. His face changed. Did I say something wrong? No, she whispered. You said something right. He reached out and touched her face, his thumb wiping away a tear, his dark skin against her green skin. Who hurt you? He asked quietly. Everyone, she answered honestly. I won't, he said. You don't know me. I know enough, he said. I know you walked into that courtyard like you owned it, even though you were terrified. I know you danced like the spirits taught you. I know you're green and glowing and the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. I know that I've been looking at girls for 3 weeks and felt nothing, and then you walked in and I felt everything. He stepped closer. I know, he said, that I'm going to marry you. Adana stopped breathing. You don't even know me, she repeated. Then tell me everything. We have all night. No, she wanted to say. We have until midnight. Then I turn back into a servant. Then the magic fades. Then you see who I really am. But she didn't say that. She said, ask me questions. So he did. They sat in the garden under the moon and he asked her about her life. She told him some of it. She told him about her father who died. She told him about loving stories and the forest and the stream. She told him about wanting to travel beyond the village. She told him about her dreams. She didn't tell him about Ugochi, about being a servant, about the cruelty, about the loneliness. She gave him the best parts of herself, the parts she'd been hiding for 17 years, and he received them like gifts. He told her about his life, about the pressure of being crown prince, about his father's expectations, about traveling for weeks looking for a wife and finding nothing, about being lonely even in a palace full of people. They talked, really talked, the way people talk when they are falling in love and they don't know it yet, but their souls are racing ahead making plans. And Adana, sitting in this garden with this prince, felt something she'd never felt before. Seen. Not invisible, not cursed, not green, just seen for the first time in her life. It was intoxicating. It was dangerous. It made her forget about midnight, forget about the warning, forget about time. Until she heard it. Dong, the palace clock striking. Dong, no. Dong, not yet. Dong. The prince was mid-sentence, telling her about his mother, when Adana stood up abruptly. I have to go, she said. What? Why? Dong, her wrapper. It was flickering, the moonlight starting to fade. Dong. Adana ran. Wait, the prince stood up. Where are you going? Dong! She was running through the garden, through the palace, her wrapper dissolving as she ran, the moonlight fading to regular cloth, her glow dimming. Dong! Final bell. Midnight. The magic was gone. She stumbled in the palace courtyard, now mostly empty, the festival over, just servants cleaning up. She looked down at herself. Regular wrapper, torn, faded, old, green skin, still glowing slightly, but not like before, just green. She was herself again. And the prince was coming. She could hear him calling her name. She ran into the night. Behind her, Chibuzo burst into the courtyard. Adana! But she was gone, disappeared into the darkness like she was never there. He stood there, breathing hard, heart pounding. Search the village, he said to his guards. Find her. Your Highness, we don't even know which village she's from. She said, Umala, he said. Search there, find the green woman and bring her to me. Yes, Your Highness. He looked at the empty courtyard, at the space where a goddess had danced. I will find you, he whispered. In the forest, Adana collapsed against the Iroko tree, crying. The old woman appeared. Why are you crying? She asked. You are magnificent. He wanted to marry me, Adana sobbed. He said he was going to marry me. And, she interrupted. And I'm a servant, Adana sobbed. I'm the green cursed girl from Umala. When he finds out who I really am, he'll what? The old woman interrupted. Love you. He already does. He fell in love with you, child. The real you. The you beneath the moonlight. The magic just made them see you. But what he fell in love with, that was all you. But I lied to him, she corrected. You protected yourself, the old woman corrected. That's different. Now, he's going to come looking for you. What will you do? Adana looked at her green hands, at the old woman, at the path back to the village where Ugochi was probably waiting to kill her. I don't know, she whispered. Then figure it out, the old woman said, because he's coming, and when he does, you'll have to choose, hide again or be seen. She disappeared into the trees. Adana sat there under the Iroko tree until dawn. Then she went home, to face Ugochi, and to wait. Part 4. He came to the village looking for a goddess. He found a girl in a torn wrapper, washing dishes in someone else's compound. He still got down from his horse. Ugochi was waiting. Of course she was. Adana came through the gate at dawn, wrapper dusty from the road, braids loose from running, and Ugochi was sitting in the compound on a wooden stool like a judge who had already decided the verdict and was simply waiting for the condemned to arrive. Where, Ugochi said, were you? Not a question. Adana was too tired for performance. The festival, she said. The silence that followed was the specific silence of a woman who has just confirmed her worst fear and is deciding what to do with the confirmation. You went, Ugochi said quietly. After everything You didn't forbid me, Adana said. You just didn't invite me. Those are different things. Ugochi stood up. She was not a tall woman, but she had the presence of someone who has spent 20 years making people smaller and had become very good at it. You went to the festival, she said. Wearing what? Looking like what? You embarrassed this family. I am not your family, Adana said. Another silence. This one longer. Your father's grave is barely cold, Ugochi said, and her voice had changed. It had that particular soft quality it got when she was about to do something that required a softer delivery. My father would have taken me to that festival himself, Adana said, with a new wrapper and his hand in mine. Don't use his memory for this. Ugochi looked at her, at this girl she had managed and controlled and diminished for 10 years, who was standing in her compound at dawn, dusty and tired and entirely, completely unafraid. Something had shifted. Ugochi could feel it, and she didn't like what it meant. Go inside, she said. We will discuss your punishment later. I'm going to sleep, Adana said. I'll start work at noon. She walked past Ugochi into the house. Ugochi stood in the compound alone. In the distance, she could have imagined it, but she didn't think she did. She heard the sound of palace drums. The drums were not her imagination. By mid-morning, the whole village knew. The crown prince was in Omala. He arrived at dawn with 6 guards, his best friend Emeka, and the specific energy of a man who had not slept and did not intend to until he found what he was looking for. He went first to the village head. He said, I am looking for a woman. Her name is Adana. She is from this village. She has green skin, the village head said. Chibuzo went very still. You know her? Everyone knows her, the village head said. He was an old man, old enough to remember when Okonkwo had stood in a hospital corridor. No, a compound. This was not that kind of story. Had stood in the compound holding a green baby and defied the entire village. Old enough to feel now the weight of what defiance costs and what it eventually produces. Take me to her, the prince said. The village head looked at him for a long moment. Your Highness, he said carefully, there are things you should know before you see her. Tell me on the way, Chibuzo said. The village head told him all of it. He told him about Okonkwo and Mama Obioma, about the prayer at the Iroko tree, about the birth, about the 3 days of labor and the green baby and the mother who died smiling. He told him about Okonkwo raising Adana alone, about the village's rejection, about the stones and the names and the signs against evil. He told him about Okonkwo's death and what happened after. He did not spare the details about Ugochi. Chibuzo listened. His face did several things during the telling. By the time they reached Ugochi's compound, his jaw was set in a way that Emeka, walking behind him, recognized and quietly stepped back from. That jaw meant someone was about to have a very bad morning. Ugochi heard the drums and the footsteps and came out of the house to find the crown prince of the region standing in her compound. She had about 3 seconds of pure shock. Then, performance. She arranged her face into welcome, adjusted her wrapper, stepped forward with a smile of a woman who was absolutely not terrified. Your Highness, she said, bowing deeply. What an honor. Please come inside. Let me prepare. Where is Adana? Chibuzo said. Ugochi's prepared smile flickered. Just slightly. Adana, my stepdaughter. She's resting, Your Highness. She was unwell last night. I don't think she's in any condition to receive. Go and get her, the prince said. Now. Ugochi looked at him, at his face, at the 6 guards behind him, at Emeka, who was looking at her with the specific expression of a man who has been told the full story on the way here and has strong feelings about it. At the village head, who will not meet her eyes. She went inside. Adana was sleeping. She had fallen into bed at dawn with her wrapper still on, too exhausted to change, and she had gone under immediately, the deep, dreamless sleep of a body that had been through too much in too many hours. Ugochi stood in the doorway of the room. For a moment, just one, she looked at her stepdaughter sleeping, at the green skin luminous even in sleep, at the braids spread on the pillow, at the face that was, even exhausted and dusty from the road, the most beautiful face she had ever personally hated. She thought about not waking her. She thought about telling the prince she had gone, traveled, sick, dead. Then she thought about 6 palace guards and a man with a jaw like that and the village head who had apparently decided to have a conscience this morning. Adana's eyes opened. She looked at Ugochi. Ugochi's face was doing something she couldn't categorize. Someone is here for you, Ugochi said. Who? Ugochi opened her mouth, closed it. Come and see, she said. Adana came out of the house in her sleeping wrapper, the torn one, the old faded one she had worn to the festival before the magic transformed it. Her braids were loosed and half undone from sleep. Her face was bare from the makeup that the magic had given her. Just her, just Adana, just the green skin and the amber eyes still foggy from being pulled out of sleep. She stopped when she saw him. He stopped when he saw her. The compound went completely silent. This was not the glowing goddess from the festival. This was not the moonlight wrapper or the elaborate braided updo or the silver beads or the supernatural brightness. This was a girl in a torn wrapper who had been asleep 10 seconds ago. And he recognized her immediately. Not because of the green skin, although yes, there was only one green woman in all the territory, so that helped. But because of her eyes, those honey amber eyes, soft with sleep and wide, and looking at him with an expression that cycled through recognition, horror, relief, and resignation in about 4 seconds. You, he said. You, she said. A pause. You look different, he said. I was asleep, she said. No, I mean... He stopped, looked at her properly, at the wrapper, at the compound, at the water pot by the doorway, the sweeping broom leaned against the wall, the evidence of a life arranged around labor. Adana looked at him. Then she looked at the village head, who would not look at her. She understood. He had been told. She thought about being afraid. She thought about running. She did neither. She was so tired of running. How much did he tell you? she asked. Everything, the village head said, quietly to his own feet. Good, Adana said. She looked at the prince. Then you know I'm not who you thought I was at the festival. You are exactly who I thought you were, he said. That's why I came. Ugochi chose this moment to speak. In retrospect, it was her worst decision in a decade of bad decisions. Your Highness, she said, stepping forward, her voice warm and reasonable and completely calculated. I hope the village head gave you the full picture. Adana she's beloved in this family, of course, but she's also, she paused, choosing her words, she's troubled. You saw how she appeared at your festival uninvited, wearing, we don't even know how she got that dress. We suspect she may have stolen the fabric. Mama Ugochi, Chibuzo said. He said it pleasantly. Everyone in the compound went still. I'm sorry? The village head told me everything, he said again. But this time the emphasis was different. This time it landed differently. Everything. Ugochi looked at the village head. The village head was studying the red earth of the compound floor with tremendous interest. I don't know what... This compound, the prince said, belonged to Okonkwo, son of the former village head, who died leaving it to his daughter, Adana. Is that correct? Silence. Is that correct? He said again. The traditions of inheritance, Ugochi started. Answer the question. More silence. Yes, Ugochi said, finally. The word cost her something. You could see it cost her. And Adana has been residing in her own father's compound in what capacity? Ugochi said nothing. Working, Adana said quietly. Not dramatically, just factually. I cooked last night's food. I cook every day's food. And sleep where? She pointed to the small room, the one at the back, the one that had once been a storage room before it became her room. The prince looked at the room. He looked at the main house. He looked at Ugochi. Pack your things, he said to Adana. I'm sorry. You are Okonkwo's daughter, he said. This compound is yours by right, and we will sort the legal matter of that through the proper channels. He paused. But you are not spending one more night in a storage room in your own father's house. Ugochi found her voice. She cannot simply live with a man she met last night. She is living with the crown prince of this region and 6 palace guards, Emeka said pleasantly from behind Chibuzo. It was the first time he had spoken. Would you like to complete that sentence? Ugochi closed her mouth. Chamaka, who had appeared from inside the house at some point during this conversation, grabbed her mother's arm. Mama, she said quietly, stop. It was Chamaka's voice that did it.